I'm your host, Linda Thompson, and thanks for connecting with us today. At Buzz, we aim to normalize cannabis through content, community, and conversation. And today, we're talking with an entrepreneur that is hoping to help retailers in a myriad of ways. Welcome to Jake Neiman.
Thank you for having me today. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming, Jake. Checking in through COVID, home office there and home office here. So the reality of communicating in today's times is we're making do with what we've got. So thanks very much for joining us from home.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So Jake's got you got a couple of very interesting things going on. Not one, but two businesses actually, with some really interesting things that you're bringing to market during COVID. And you're an entrepreneur, and so
Yes.
we're here today to talk about that journey for you a little bit, and talk about some of the things that you're working on. Big Digital. You're a co-founder of Big Digital, and it's recently, you guys have recently announced that you're doing some really interesting things to support individuals during COVID. And, that is really important as we're starting to open our doors again and people are getting back out there. Tell us a little bit about your SafeCheck technology and how through that you're ensuring both retailers and consumers can be safer during COVID.
Yeah, absolutely. Big Digital specializes in digital displays and digital signage communication solutions for many years. So we've done numerous installations in all sorts of public spaces, retail installations, as well as events and trade shows and marketing activations. So we came up with a technology called SafeCheck to really help retailers and office buildings and all sorts of locations really to put in relevant interactive technologies at their storefronts, at their storefront entranceways, to communicate relevant information to people that might be in a lineup or in a line queue. The functionality ranges from everything from average wait time to an RSVP feature to how many people are in store, out of stock products, all sorts of diverse types of real-time communication to make the customers more comfortable, safer, and also benefit from just a whole bunch of relevant information about what that entranceway experience is going to be like. So when you look these days, any kind of retail destination, you see these long lineups, especially at banks or grocery stores or convenience stores. You see massive lineup of people. Our SafeCheck technology enables the retailers or the landlords to communicate very effectively in real time with those customers.
And so is it an app?
There's a few different platforms that it exists on. The first module is indeed an app. So you get to an entranceway or a storefront, posters and signage on the outside with a QR code scan. So you scan your phone, and within a second on your phone will appear a real-time dashboard that will provide everything from, like I said, how long are you going to wait in line, or if the retailer wants, they'll put you right into a entranceway queue, so you don't have to really wait in line. They'll just get a quick alert when it's your time to go in. Kind of like a deli experience. Sure. at a grocery store, if you think about it. Mm-hmm. So that's the mobile module, and then we also have a digital signage module, which are screens either on the inside facing out or on the outside outdoor, waterproof, sunlight readable screens on the outside that can provide the same type of digital display messaging to the entire audience that might be waiting in line.
Well, that's great. I mean, it's one thing to be standing in line for, Home Depot right now, but what happens when it's minus 20 out? Having
Right.
an alert or a queue where you could wait in your car would make a lot of sense. So that's great.
Absolutely.
And did I read somewhere or hear somewhere that you're also maybe doing something around thermal detection?
Yes, we have different features and sensors that could be added essentially a la carte to the SafeCheck platform. Mm-hmm. So if a retailer or a high-rise commercial building wants to add thermal scanners to really detect if people have a fever or mass detection type of functionality, we have those plug-and-play systems and sensors that can integrate with the overall SafeCheck platform,
Right, which might be great for people that
as
are.
well as some.
Oh, sorry. I think we're having COVID
I'm
technical
sorry, you cut out there.
difficulties.
Can you?
Yeah, I think
We glitched.
we're going to
Yes.
blame that on
Can you say
COVID.
that last one again, please? Sure, absolutely.
I was just saying that would be wonderful for an office building that has, is mandating certain types of protocols for back to work or those types of things. So I'm sure you're pretty busy right now with that, given, the return to work, and that's wonderful that you're able to make such a great contribution. Um,
Yeah, even at the entranceway of elevator bays, if you think about big high-rise commercial buildings with now the social distancing at elevators, we can create elevator line queues right outside the elevators with the signage that communicates how long the wait is to get into the elevator, or RSVP, and then we'll let you know when it's your turn, so you can kind of come in like almost like a Canada's Wonderland Fast Pass type of a experience, if you think about it like that.
hmm Well, that's great. That's exciting, and certainly will be great to see some of those technologies creating safer spaces for all of us here in the next while we continue to battle through what we're going through. Let's switch gears a little. You've got your Popcan shirt on, and we certainly want to talk about that.
Yes,
Talk about jack of all trades. You've got two businesses that are,
right.
actively in the market right now. Popcan is in the business of providing repurposed storage containers that are basically prefabricated and could serve the cannabis industry, but other industries as well. But certainly the cannabis industry, there's lots of different ways you could apply that solution, whether that's retail locations, education centers, medical cannabis clinics, or even consumption lounges one day if our government supported that. So, anytime we're making the planet a better place and reusing materials, we're big fans of that at Can Buzz. So, pretty interesting idea. Pretty interesting idea. Can you tell us a little bit about where the idea for this came from?
Sure. So back to big digital, we have been using shipping containers for pop-up video wall installations and marketing activations for brands and agencies for years. So when cannabis was legalized, let's say in the last 18 months, we continued to see a real challenge with making legal cannabis accessible in non-traditional areas. So of course, a place like Toronto or Vancouver, there's lots of retail locations and no shortage of places to put a cannabis retail store. But as soon as you go to like northern communities or seasonal towns or First Nations or events and festivals, like you brought up consumption lounges or special occasion permits, there's a big gap and a real opportunity to bring more of a prefabricated, fully compliant retail footprint to those types of environments. So that's where Popcan came from. It came from a real need to bring innovative solutions to make legal cannabis more accessible and really to push out the illicit market that has a real monopoly in a lot of these types of destinations. So that's where Popcan came from, and we've seen excellent support not only from the cannabis industry but also regulators like the AGCO that's really embraced and supports these types of innovative solutions and unique ways of making legal cannabis accessible. We're all on the same team, whether it's the LPs or the retailers or the regulators to make safe and secure legal cannabis accessible and really to push out this illicit market.
Right. Okay, well, you touched a bit there on compliance. How is it
Mhm.
that these are prefabricated and produced in a compliant way? Let's use Ontario as an example. What kind of
Sure.
features would someone expect?
Well, I just came back. I'm wearing the Popcan T-shirt because I just came back from an AGCO inspection at one of our Popcans. So it's all fresh in my mind. So no different than any traditional retail store. We have to meet the same compliance requirements. So everything from age-gated entry, which we build right into the Popcan. We have a patent on that component of it. To security cameras that cover the 360 perimeter on the outside and the inside, There's a vault structure that's built into the Popcan or into these prefabricated environments that we're primarily working with shipping containers. The beauty of working with shipping containers in general is that they're solid steel structures. So just right off the bat, they're much more secure and durable than a traditional retail store that might have shingles and plywood roofs. In our case, our roofs are always solid steel structures. So pop cans in general are much stronger and much harder to break into than any traditional retail store. So again, no different than any retail store. We have to build to comply with all the safety, security features that might be required for a traditional retail store.
Okay, well, you brought up the structure being, pretty solid and
Mm-hmm.
sounds very can-like. And when we think of a can, we think that,
Yeah.
it might get cold or hot depending on the season. So how is that environment? How are you managing to keep it, pleasurable for people?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, no different than a build out. We take the environment into major consideration. So when we start with a reclaimed shipping container, and I emphasize reclaim because shipping containers are pretty much used for shipping of goods from overseas. So once they arrive in Canada, let's say, and the goods are unloaded, the majority of those shipping containers start to rust away in a yard somewhere, and it takes hundreds of years for them to kind of decompose. So it's a huge waste, and these are massive structures. So we start by reclaiming them, and then depending on where it's going, we meet first of all the building code requirements. So that includes insulation, the thermal sinks, HVAC systems, air conditioning. So we build all that in. And so, for example, we're building a 6-container Popcan retail store for Peguis First Nation, which is north of Winnipeg. So it gets pretty cold up there. And we've added extra insulation that meets the requirements for that type of a community from a heat insulation and heat retention perspective. And then again, we install a proper heating system, air conditioning system, proper duct work, and everything else to ensure that, again, it's just as comfortable as any traditional store.
Okay, so, basic needs, we need a washroom. How are we going to do that inside a shipping container?
We have pop cans without washrooms, and we have pop cans with washrooms. So usually a pop can with a washroom is, we start with a double wide, so at least 2 containers kind of merge together to make one footprint.
Okay.
And then we designate an area for a washroom, um, traditional plumbing, and then when it gets on site, we connect it with the plumbing infrastructure of the location. And in some cases, again, if it's a northern community where they don't have the proper plumbing facilities, we'll use septic tanks and solutions that an RV might use, similar to that.
Okay, that makes sense. And also for the temporary solutions,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. And
Okay.
in temporary solutions like a special occasion permit or a temporary, let's say a 1 month installation, something like that, we might not need to put a washroom facility because usually that event or music festival will have the facilities already there. So we'll take advantage of that. But if
Right.
it's, of course, a semi-permanent or a permanent installation, we'll build out a proper washroom. And our
Okay.
whole focus with Popkin is really again about making legal cannabis accessible in a very convenient way. We've trademarked quick service cannabis because that's really what we're all about. We're not trying to simulate or compete with the customer experience of a 5,000 square foot store. We're all about just, go in, get the products you're looking for, and go out in a luxurious environment and a quick service approach, in and out, and go about your business.
Okay. And well, the design is pretty compact. So,
Mhm.
with social distancing being the new normal, um, it's going to be important for people to get in and out quickly. And maybe tying it with your other technology around waiting in queue, you have the perfect
Correct.
sort of quick service solution here. Um,
Absolutely.
do you have any in market?
Yeah, we have one right about to launch shortly with Shawanaga First Nation,
Hmm.
which is off of Georgian Bay. in a couple hours from Toronto. We have a store opening tomorrow with Alchemy Cannabis,
Mm-hmm.
which is a licensed retailer. So I just came back from that inspection a couple hours ago, and it went great. So that won't be open, I think, tomorrow morning. So the timing of this interview is perfect.
Oh,
And
that's great.
we have six or seven actually in development that will be opening up through 2020.
Well, that's great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Are you a licensed retailer in any province using this technology yourself, or are you just in the business of supplying retailers and operators?
Yeah, we work with authorized retailers. So
Mhm.
by the very nature, we're obviously not competing with them. So we're a solutions provider to them. We're not going out and applying for ROL or RSAs directly,
Mhm.
but we're very much informed about the regulations and the processes. So we help our retailers kind of through that process. So even though again technically we're not the retail license holder, we'll be there for the inspections and we'll help with the discussions with regulators. And we're always engaged with regulators and like the Ministry of the Attorney General's office to help them create frameworks for the future for special occasion permits or consumption lounges and what that could look like. So we're actively involved with consulting different levels of government and helping create the long-term framework for, again, making legal cannabis accessible in all sorts of non-traditional ways.
Well, that's a wonderful vision and a wonderful contribution. So, thank you so much for sharing what your work with us and our audience. And thank you to the audience that enjoyed the chat today. If you haven't already, please follow Can Buzz on social. You'll find all of our content and our contests on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, Pinterest, and Reddit. Can Buzz is the handle. And Jake, we wish you all the best moving forward, and we look forward to seeing more and more Popcans pop up.